Hi, welcome back to West Coast Geeks. I'm your host, Joaquin. How we doing, people? Today's video is how to make your plus one sword or plus one weapon seem less boring. I don't know. I have to work on the title with that. But, most characters or most players, when they think of magical weapons, they have this image in their head. They're like, and then you tell them it's a plus one sword, and then they're like, like you did this on purpose. You're like, your first level, dude. I just gave you a plus one to hit and damage. Do you know how how lucky you should feel for getting that? No, that ain't happening. They don't like it, and they find it boring. And I don't blame them. I mean, I think the only time I was really excited for when I first got a plus one sword is when I was first starting the game, and I was like 8. And so, yeah, that probably wouldn't fly with me if I was a player too. But the reason is because they're just so vanilla, you don't care. And you don't care because the sword doesn't have a purpose. And so that's what I want to try to help you do is give your magical weapons some purpose without, getting too crazy. So the first thing I did was I looked in the Dungeon Master's Guide, the first one, and they did a really good job of having like plus one swords that were like plus two versus shape changers, or three versus shape changers, or lichen or reptiles. And this just gave the sword an extra little pickup, so when they got it they were like, okay, cool, so I got this plus one sword, and if we bump into something a little bit bigger, at least I will have an advantage when I'm attacking that. The second one, and this is the reason why I'm really doing the video, is I was talking about magical items to my players and saying that, I wanted to give the weapons history. And not, not no paragraph or book or whatever, an essay, but just a couple of sentences on the weapon. So I came up with this one weapon that's actually throwing into my current campaign. They're going through Keep on the Borderland right now. And so the name of this weapon is called Whisper. And so Whisper is going to be a plus one short sword or a long sword, but it might go with a short sword, but I have to look at what the characters are. Because I know one of them is a paladin who's always has a great sword, and Whisper doesn't make sense with the great sword. And so, if they find it, they're going to see these runes etched on either the handle or the beginning of the blade, and it's going to say Whisper. And so, if they do some investigation and attune to it, they are going to actually, yeah, I mean, in 5e, there would be attunement, but on a plus one weapon, I don't think that's necessary. But after they do the research, they're going to discover that Whisper is able to cast Silence once, maybe twice a day. And the reason behind that is the sword was created either one, because of a bard who couldn't hit high pitched notes. It'd be like me going, me, 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 me. Yeah, you're like, no, Joaquin, please don't. It's like, all right. So, um, he was tired of them booing when he was trying to hit those high pitches, so he would grab the hilt of his sword and cast Silence, so the people in the back couldn't hear him booing, couldn't hear the people booing. And so um, that's one. And then you can kind of mess around with it. The other one is if you have a thief in the party. Whisper was created to cast Silence so they could get around the city guards. It mostly would be for a city, a town. You really wouldn't have those type of patrols as you would in a city. But in a city, a thief had saved up his money and had a sword commissioned. And so once he had the sword commissioned, he would go and and be more successful on his heist. So you have two quick examples, nothing crazy, and all of a sudden this +1 sword, Whisper, has an identity, has a nice little ability to it, and has a purpose. So your player character should get more enjoyment out of it. And if you're a DM, it's just fun to create these +1 like sentinel type weapons. Speaking of which, so I looked in the original Dungeon Master's Guide here, and they have all kinds of tables where, especially for like a +1 sword, you can just give it one primary ability. You don't have to give it in a language. You don't have to give it speech or anything. And let's just take a closer look at that. No! Alright, so I'm going to have to slice this video because I meant to hit pause and I ended the recording. So, as I was saying, we're gonna take a closer look at primary abilities that you won't find in 5th edition or even Xanatar's Guide, which I thought was really sad because these are interesting little perks you can put on your +1 weapon. Detect shifting rooms or elevators. Basically, at that point, it would just be like detect secret doors. Detect traps. It's a nice one. Detect evil. Detect precious metals at a certain radius. Detect gems. And, I'd probably limit these type of abilities because it's +1 to maybe like once or twice per day. And detect magic. Detect, like I said, secret doors, invisible objects. Locate an object. And Archeon Pop is holding that up a second. There you go, Archeon. Oh, poor Archeon. And the other thing that they did was they gave these +1 weapons like +4 versus reptiles. So if they're going to be in the swamp or something, this would be a good sword to go against like lizardmen, bullywugs, other little crocodiles, whatever. They had like +1 weapons against like shape changers. So, think outside the box on these. Excuse me. And this will bring this. Sorry, a little tongue tied. And my throat is a little dry. I should have paused that. I should have edited that, but I won't. So, this gives you, as a DM, to be more creative with your weapons, and hopefully your player characters will appreciate the extra thought and time. I mean, we know we don't. Oh, the DMs are like, no. They'll still be like, it's a +1 sword, and it's boring. And you're like, but I named it Whisper. So, leave a comment below. What are you doing to enhance your magic weapons? The other thing you can do is on +1 weapons is play a campaign where there's very little magic. And if there's very little magical items, a 1st through 3rd level character getting a +1 sword will be a big deal, especially when you tell them that magic is very scarce in the region that you're in. Most people are afraid of magic, or some areas magic is outlawed. So you wouldn't be seeing wizards just going around throwing around spells because they would probably be killed. So you can play those type of campaigns. But if you're not going to play anything like that, just spruce it up a little bit. So I have that sword Whisper. It's in my campaign. I don't know if the characters will find it. If they do, it's cool. I did go back to the sorry, man, it's been a while since I made a video. Gotta get back in the swing of things. Keep on the Borderland. And so I looked at some of the magical weapons that they had there, and I tweaked them a little bit. And also I made magical items that are just specific for some of the humanoids. So the humanoids can also have their own magical items that are like Wizard's Bane, that, that the player characters get, it would be like +1 sword, +3 versus spellcasters. And so the sword could be given a name, Withered's Bane, but it's in Orcish or it's in Goblin, one of the humanoid languages. And so, this is your chance to, like I've been keep saying, just to really be creative, have fun with it. So with that, people, I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a comment below. If you like the video, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. I appreciate it. And with that, people, I'll catch you next week.